Now it's recording. All right. Okay. Today is December 13th, the 83rd anniversary of the Nanjing Massacre. And, you can talk about the historical issues and everything else, but regardless is that it is something that the Chinese definitely continue to remember, rightfully so, that they were not always the prosperous country that they were, and that they had many rebellions, and they were on the brink of becoming a colony of Japan. I haven't seen the gray zone folks talk about this. You don't see the usual China boos. People like Daniel Trumbull also say this, and I doubt I would see these other folks who love China as it is today. They love China today, and yet they don't want to talk about what happened to China before. To me, this is a definition of a fair weather friend. These are folks who have they only want to be part of the winning team. And they will call themselves socialists, and they will, give lip service to Marxist-Leninism, but really they just want to be on the winning side and they hate America. Okay, I get that. I can get why people hate America. I do. But they will stay silent about the Second World War. They will not speak about the Sino-Japanese War. They don't want to talk about that. These are folks who will praise China for today. Oh, yes, we love China. They're doing so many great things all over the world. But they have no concern for Chinese history, in my view. These are people that if you pricked and prodded them, you would find out that these are opportunists, that they don't actually care about China or the Chinese people or its history. Whatever history you want to call it, whether it's the very cosmopolitan sort of love of the Shaolin Temple, which I'll admit I hold that more cosmopolitan view where it's like, yeah, Shaolin Temple and Zen, and we're going to play with weapons and ha ha ha, 36 chamber, hi-ya! Or events like the Nanjing Massacre. And indeed, the very ugly, nasty war between China and Japan, which started long before the Second World War began with the Marco Polo Bridge incident and other such incidents. Now, of course, there's a lot of complications. I'm trying to be fair here between the Nationalist Army, the Kuomintang, and the Red Army, Chinese Red Army. And there's a lot of back and forth about it. I have to be very careful because I'm not Chinese. 我不是中国人. 我是美国人. And basically, for those that translated, I'm not Chinese. I'm an American. So I have to step lightly. But they will go on and on talking about Japanese fascism, and yet they claim to like China. And yet you will not see a video, you will not see them commemorating, saying solidarity with the Chinese people in their resistance against Japanese fascism. You don't see that. You don't see that. You will see these folks, even, these Western Marxist-Leninists who will talk all day about, yeah, China does this and China does that. They do not share in their mourning of hundreds of thousands of Chinese people that died in the city of Nanjing. And indeed, in talking about the whole war, which was horrible, I was kind of leaving a little bit off about that, but it's like where the Japanese put opium into cigarettes to get folks hooked, particularly resistance fighters against the Japanese. Unit 731, where, they tested, all sorts of different, whether it was dropping bombs full of fleas with bubonic plague, or testing cold weather equipment. And this was even shown in exploitation movies like I can't think of it now. The Red Sun, I want to say the Red Sun, something like that. But anyway, awful, horrible things. You never hear these opportunists, people like Max Blumenthal. You don't hear them talk about that. You don't hear these folks who say solidarity with China and the Chinese people. You don't hear that. Now, I say this, of course, because I saw a video from CGTN talking about the memorial that happened, time difference, but, was yesterday. You don't hear them talk about that. These are fair weather friends. We love China now that they have, huge stocks, and, China is back, being very powerful, and they have all these big cities and ooh and ah. But they have no concern for what China was back in 1937. They have no concern for this because they don't care. Now, maybe that's a bit of slander, but I think it speaks to a deeper issue. It's opportunism. These are not folks who care about the struggle of the Chinese people. They like them because, hey, you achieved it. Hey, that's why people are, that's why you have people like Daniel Trumbull, who will, who has his Chinese wife and everything else. But they don't hold themselves in solidarity with the Chinese people. Now, if you are a true socialist, then you would have this memorial. Same thing as folks will talk about, the, Wounded Knee or something else like that. But the fact that they don't talk about these issues shows that these folks do not have the best interests of China. Now, I myself am not Chinese, and I can't fully understand what it must have been like to survive seeing the Japanese come into this big city of Nanjing, have everything destroyed, having women raped, babies being killed, and everything else. I'm not going to claim to understand it, but it's something that is difficult to say. And all I say to folks at the end of this is that be mindful. And I say this to the Chinese folks who may hear this, is be careful of people like Daniel Trumbull. Careful of these folks who claim to be, claim to speak for China or to speak great of China. They're not Chinese. They don't understand what China has been through. They read about it in history books, and et cetera, et cetera. Americans in general, we don't understand that sort of violence or that sort of struggle that the Chinese people have been through, whatever it may be. I think it's very difficult for Americans or Westerners in general to speak on it. But I think that's important to say. So I say we honor the Chinese people who do not forget Nanjing. And they don't forget what the Japanese did. And of course, as we know, the Japanese government hugely denies their role in the Second World War. They don't want to talk about it. They just say, they still have memorials for many war criminals who came about. It's a very different situation, isn't it? So I would just say if you think about it today, pray for the many victims who died 83 years ago today, technically yesterday, in the Nanjing massacre. One of many atrocities, one of millions of atrocities that occurred throughout China, perpetrated by the Japanese. Sometimes I think maybe I'm being a little bit too histrionic, a little bit too dramatic. I also feel it's important to give my opinion. And these are my opinions. You can feel that I'm full of shit, that I shouldn't be speaking on it, and you can say, hey, don't talk that way. You're not Chinese, bro. Stay in your own lane. And I agree with that. I do. I should stay in my own lane. And then really, I'll be honest with you. I'm using this as a chance to dab on the opportunists. I'm using this as a chance to, to punch up or to punch down at folks. But I say this as a sense of there are people who claim to be socialists when in reality, these are folks who simply want to be on the winning team. And they will claim it to be socialism just to dab on everybody. Just to say, I'm with the winners. I'm not with the losers and the cringe, goobers over there like you are. Ha ha ha. And that's really what it is. It's trying to set yourself apart from everybody else. And that's my view of them. I hope y'all enjoy. And stay strong.